The 8th rate increase.
Another major bank failure.
The social media platform is simply now X.
Faces more than 100 years in prison.
2023 was the year the world realized that stability was just an illusion. After more than a decade of easy money, zero interest rates, and endless optimism, the global economy hit a wall of reality. It began with uncertainty and ended in transformation. From record-high inflation to the collapse of major banks, from the rise of artificial intelligence to the reshaping of global trade, these 2 years, 2023 and 2024, marked a turning point for how money markets and power operate. What we are living through right now isn't just another economic cycle, it's the start of a new financial era. At the beginning of 2023, fear ruled the markets. The U.S. Federal Reserve had just announced its 8th consecutive interest rate hike, a move that sent shockwaves through investors who had grown used to cheap borrowing. Jerome Powell made it clear, the era of free money was over. Interest rates were raised another 25 basis points, signaling that the Fed was willing to risk a recession to bring inflation back under control. Across the globe, central banks followed suit. The Bank of England warned that inflation in the United Kingdom was among the worst in the developed world. The message was the same everywhere. The path back to normal would be long and painful. Then came the cracks in the system. The first major one appeared in March 2023 when Silvergate Capital, a bank deeply tied to cryptocurrency firms, announced it was shutting down operations. But that was only the beginning. Within weeks, panic spread through the U.S. financial system. Silicon Valley Bank, which had over $200 billion in assets and was considered the financial backbone of the tech industry, collapsed almost overnight. Poor risk management, massive withdrawals, and a sudden loss of confidence triggered the biggest bank failure since 2008. Regulators quickly stepped in, but the contagion was already spreading. Signature Bank fell next, followed by First Republic, which was eventually seized by regulators and sold to J.P. Morgan. For a moment, it felt like history was repeating itself. But this time, something unusual happened. The panic didn't last. The U.S. government and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation guaranteed deposits beyond normal limits, effectively stabilizing the banking system in days. Markets dipped briefly, but then recovered rapidly. It was as if investors decided to move on overnight, shifting their focus to something far more exciting: artificial intelligence. That same month, OpenAI released its new language model, GPT-4, and it instantly became the most talked about innovation in years. Suddenly, every company, from Microsoft to Google, was racing to integrate AI into their products. Chatbots, automation tools, and AI-powered creative platforms exploded in popularity. NVIDIA, the chip maker supplying the powerful GPUs behind these models, saw its stock price skyrocket. By mid-2023, it joined the exclusive club of trillion-dollar companies, alongside Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. Analysts coined a new name for the dominant players of the tech market, the Magnificent Seven, referring to Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Google, Tesla, and NVIDIA. These 7 giants alone accounted for nearly all of the S&P 500's gains that year. Meanwhile, the rest of the economy wasn't doing as well. Oil prices spiked again after OPEC announced surprise production cuts. The debt ceiling crisis returned to Washington, with politicians warning that the U.S. could default for the first time in history if Congress didn't raise the borrowing limit. After weeks of political theater, the ceiling was finally raised, but not before the global credit agencies issued stark warnings. Fitch Ratings downgraded the U.S. long-term credit rating from AAA to AA+, citing political dysfunction and rising debt. By September, the U.S. national debt had officially crossed $33 trillion, a record that no one celebrated. Still, the economy kept moving forward. Despite high interest rates, consumers kept spending, unemployment stayed low, and the much-anticipated recession never arrived. Investors who had braced for disaster instead found themselves in one of the strongest markets in recent history. The S&P 500 rose more than 20% in 2023, while tech stocks delivered returns not seen since the pre-pandemic boom. Even Bitcoin made a comeback, climbing above $42,000 by year's end. It seemed like optimism had returned, but it was a fragile kind, built more on hope than fundamentals. By late 2023, attention shifted toward accountability in the financial world. In New York, Sam Bankman-Fried, the disgraced founder of FTX, faced trial for orchestrating one of the biggest frauds in modern financial history. After weeks of shocking testimony, including confessions from his former colleagues, he was found guilty on all counts. The man once hailed as the king of crypto now faces more than a century in prison. It was a symbolic moment that captured the theme of 2023 perfectly. Illusions finally meeting reality. But amidst the chaos, there were also stories of brilliance and resilience. Novo Nordisk, the Danish pharmaceutical company, rose to become Europe's second-largest firm thanks to its groundbreaking anti-obesity drug, Wegovy, which showed not only dramatic weight loss results, but also a significant reduction in heart-related risks. Meanwhile, legendary investor Charlie Munger, vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett's lifelong business partner, passed away at the age of 99. His death marked the end of an era. Munger had spent decades preaching discipline, rationality, and long-term thinking, principles that seemed almost old-fashioned in the age of memes and hype. As Buffett himself said, "Charlie moved me toward looking for wonderful companies at fair prices rather than fair companies at wonderful prices." It was a reminder that true wisdom in investing never goes out of style. As 2024 began, optimism turned into confidence. Inflation continued to fall across major economies, and central banks hinted at possible rate cuts in the near future. Analysts projected that the Federal Reserve might lower its target rate by nearly a full percentage point before the end of the year. Markets reacted with another wave of enthusiasm, pushing major indices close to their all-time highs. Investors started calling it the soft landing, an economic slowdown without a recession, a scenario that almost no one believed possible a year earlier. At the same time, technology entered a new phase. Apple unveiled its Vision Pro headset, marking its official entry into the world of mixed reality. Meta launched the Quest 3, and suddenly the idea of merging digital and physical experiences didn't feel like science fiction anymore. Meanwhile, AI continued to evolve at a speed few could keep up with. Every week brought a new model, a new breakthrough, or a new debate about the future of human jobs. Governments began drafting regulations, while companies raced to commercialize as fast as possible. In just 1 year, AI shifted from a novelty to the foundation of global innovation. However, not everything was as bright as it looked. Rising optimism led to excessive risk-taking again. Meme stocks made small comebacks, speculative crypto tokens resurfaced, and the housing market in some regions began overheating once more. Economists warned that investors were repeating the same mistakes they made before, believing that good times could last forever. Behind the scenes, the same long-term problems remained unresolved. Record national debt, stagnant productivity in many sectors, and widening inequality across societies. But perhaps the most important shift from these 2 years wasn't in numbers, it was in mindset. The events of 2023 and 2024 taught a hard lesson about financial reality. The illusion that markets always move rationally has been shattered. People witnessed how panic and euphoria could both drive massive swings, how fear could destroy billion-dollar banks overnight, and how hype could make trillion-dollar companies out of thin air. In the end, markets were revealed not as perfect systems of logic, but as reflections of human psychology, of greed, fear, confidence, and denial. The key takeaway from this period is simple. Resilience and rationality beat reaction and emotion. Investors who kept calm during the 2023 panic ended up profiting the most in 2024. Those who chased every trend or headline were left exhausted. As Howard Marks famously said, "You can't predict, but you can prepare." The world learned that lesson the hard way. Now, as 2024 nears its end, the focus is shifting toward what comes next. The Federal Reserve has hinted at possible rate cuts in 2025. Inflation is largely under control, though still above target. The AI revolution continues, reshaping industries from medicine to filmmaking. The U.S. economy remains surprisingly strong, and despite all the fear, global growth is still alive. It's clear that these 2 years have set the foundation for the decade ahead, a decade defined by innovation, adaptation, and constant change. For investors, entrepreneurs, and anyone trying to make sense of this evolving world, the challenge is no longer about predicting the future, it's about understanding the present. What matters now is learning how to think independently, how to separate noise from substance, and how to stay steady when everything around you feels uncertain. Because if 2023 showed us what happens when systems break, and 2024 showed us how fast they can recover, then the future belongs to those who can do both. Survive the fall and ride the recovery. And that's exactly what we help you do at TradeCrafter, where we break down complex financial trends into simple, clear, and practical lessons you can actually use. If you want to understand markets, not fear them, if you want to learn how to think like an investor, not a speculator, then make sure to subscribe and be part of the journey. The next decade will belong to those who learn, adapt, and stay rational when everyone else is emotional. Because in the end, markets don't reward panic. They reward patience, they reward discipline, and they reward those who can see through the noise to find real value in a world that constantly swings between extremes.